Good day. Welcome to Embracing Change, Talking Through Trauma. And today my guest is Edith B. Kist. And Edith is a trauma expert, a Reiki master, an author. And she also has done a lot of podcast guesting. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about what triggers our traumas. I mean, we might even talk just a little bit about what is trauma or what is your definition of trauma. So welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tammy, for having me. And it's my pleasure to talk about this. Actually, I love more and more people to have this awareness that how they can actually misinterpret traumas, or they actually not aware that they have traumas and they just have issues, physical or mental, and they don't even know that the core of that issue is basically a trauma, what happened to them maybe at childhood or older age, or maybe in the womb of their mom,
Yeah.
So it's you mentioned about that you do Pilates and then you work with people on physical movements, which is help with trauma. And they are actually important to know that when we want to heal the trauma, and then how we found it is in a different layer. So we have conscious mind, which we operate on like 5% of the time. Basically, we are in the conscious mind when we actually are analyzing, setting goals, and then maybe focusing on something very much. But then most of the time we are impacted by our subconscious mind. And then that's where our habits are, our fears, and then memories, and so on and so forth. And then the part of the subconscious mind is actually the unconscious, and that's where buried the traumas. So we are in many layers. We are not just in this physical form, but most of the people are aware of. And then how is actually we can locate the traumas in the unconscious mind. We need to use our emotions and our body sensations for that. So when I start helping with people with helping with their issue, is like, even if they come with a physical pain or physical issue, we can actually start breaking it down that, okay, what emotions is coming up with this physical pain or physical issue, and then where they feel the sensations when they actually overgoing, like they feel these emotions, where coming up some sensations, and then they're gonna realize that it's not just that place where they have the physical pain. They can have even more sensations in their body at that point of time, because they going deeper in different emotions. And then that's when actually the unconscious mind can collect the memories which are related to those emotions, those sensations, and then bring the memories into awareness. And that's how we can release it. And the other thing is that when we sit too much with those traumas, which we don't even know, basically, we create more and more triggers. So we receive more and more triggers in life. It's piling up, and that's how it becomes eventually a physical illness. And if we already can grab it at the beginning, like when we just feeling certain mental issues or certain negative emotions, or we feel uncomfortable with situations around us, and might we have some triggering thoughts, we already start to work on finding these traumas and release them. We can prevent the diseases, we can prevent physical illnesses, basically. And that's what is very important to understand for people, that you should look for help or ask for help at the very beginning of stages, when it's not a physical pain yet, And also it's really interesting to know that which part of the body is actually represent what kind of aspects of your life, which aspects of your life. For example, when people comes to you with a leg pain or knee pain or feet, that actually represent the root chakra. It's an energy center, and which is located on the base of the trunk. And then if that chakra is blocked or underbalanced, then basically you start to have physical issues later on your legs. And then that's represent your stability, your security, even your roots, like your home country, your relationship with your home country, or relationship with the parents or ancestors. And then when you have like a negative emotions around those areas, that's when these actually getting triggered more and more and become a leg pain. And then Yeah, so it's in other chakras are in other part of the body, so it's all represents different aspects, like the heart chakra. For example, if you are experiencing loneliness or abandonment by parents or heartbreak or grief, sorrow, that's going to the heart chakra, which is actually later on can become an illness around that chest area, which is the lungs, the breast, the heart, even the upper shoulders or upper back. It's all represents the heart chakra is being blocked. So it needs to be worked in different layers, and it can be actually start working with energy healings. But what I've seen that if we want a long-lasting solution, then that's what is help is the source memory healing, which I actually learned back in 2018. And that's when I decided that I want to be a life coach. I want to be a healer, basically, and help others to do it full time, because it was such a profound solution for my issues. I used to have panic attacks. I used to have all kinds of returning infections and so on and so forth. And this was the tool which actually was able to release these things and stop these returning incidents. And the other tools I used before, like the Reiki, it was able to manage it, but not stop it or not giving me the right solutions. So that's why I'm so happy to share this, because this is a very profound tool and this long-lasting solution, and is actually pretty fast. So people who has depression and come to me for help, like within 3-4 weeks, they are a different person. They are smiling, wearing bright colored clothes, finally, wearing their hair differently. So they shift so much from this experience in a couple of weeks that, like other times, if you go to speaking therapy, or that could take ages to actually overcome certain situations.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting. I'm just going to say, like, thinking about people in their healing journeys, and talk therapy has been around for a very, very long time, and for some people it starts to scratch the surface, and for others they need to go deeper, and that's where releasing the traumas and releasing what you're talking about doing, and even releasing I am not a therapist, and I stay within my scope of practice with Pilates. But I feel that it's also something that can allow people to begin to look at the energy centers in our body, the nervous system, which is exactly that we're talking the same language at it. It's just a little bit different twist on it than what I do. But I think it's really important to, and you can correct me if you're wrong, but I usually see when they come, by the time they come to me, there's usually always an awareness that something else is fragmented or disconnected, whether it's around their heart chakra or their root chakra, with back pain. So yeah, it can be very profound, and it's really, the more and more I do this work, the more I see people beginning to put their own pieces together, so to speak. So, but yeah. And now because I've seen a number of things that you have done on Instagram, and you're hosting something this week, but you also have recently, don't you have a class too that people can go through with you?
Oh yeah, I have different classes actually. So one class is for people who actually needs guidance, needs healing, needs transformation. They feel stuck or lost, or going through some hard time. And I actually have a group coaching where I do healing sessions, and then we go through very deep meditations and healings, what is actually working even in a group settings.
Yeah.
And then also have a meditation library what they can come to 24/7 and practice daily the meditations. And I have video programs they go through, and then we check on the homeworks. I help them in the group coaching calls with their questions and answers. So it's very helpful for them. They really love it. And then there is another coaching which I do for light workers. So already, like people who's already doing this for business, like Reiki masters or healers, and they come to me to learn these tools. Then they learn these these modalities to help more deeper, better level with trauma healing, you know. So actually that's the karma healing facilitator class I am having. It has a level 1, level 2, and level 3. And now actually I'm doing the level 3 with my programs for my students. And yeah, so that's also an ongoing things yearly basis. And so if someone is, you know, already doing this kind of practices but want to go deeper or want to provide better tools for their clients, then that's also possible to learn.
That's now I know that you offer many layers is what I'm like, many layers of your programming. But before we came on the air, we talked about, because this is, I don't want to say a second career, but I segued into Pilates more full time. And I know you had another career prior to what you're doing right now. And what caused you, or how it caused or pushed you in the direction that you're in right now? Was it your own healing, or was there other things that took along with it?
Yeah, so I was an engineer before, and I really enjoyed that as well because I was passionate about it. I loved traveling with my work. I was petroleum engineer, so I had to travel in different countries. And then I experienced already panic attacks in those days. So I was already in my free time, I was visiting my Reiki master. I was started to learn Reiki. I was started to do extra sense retreats, and then going to family constellation therapies for self-healing and family healing. So I was doing all of those things in those years when I was an engineer as a hobby. But that's when the big change was coming, is when I learned these modalities back in 2018. And then when I the power, when I actually decided that, okay, I need to really show this to people and do it on a more deeper level, and then as a profession, basically. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any one area of trauma that you see more than others, just out of curiosity?
It's interesting because it's not about the trauma. So, because even a little innocent memory is trauma for someone, you know, like other people go through maybe abuse or you know, go through certain remembering, like, okay, I can remember that I was beaten up, or I got abused, or I so on and so forth. But there are people who's coming to me with severe panic attacks or depression, but the memory which is related to it is just an innocent memory where they were actually felt limited, unsupported, couldn't move around or couldn't do whatever they wanted to do because they were children and had to be watched or whatever. And it seems like an innocent situation from outside, but that child actually created those negative emotions around it, which was triggered over and over again. And then now it's became a panic attack. So what I see is not about the trauma, really. What I can say that what kind of traumas I see, because very often I don't even ask them to share it. So if someone doesn't want to share, I don't need to see it. I don't need to know. They can keep the trauma for themselves. I'm just asking them to collect the emotions which is related to it, so we can release it together. So I help them to release, but I don't need to see or know what they went through. So it's very safe place. They don't need to talk about it.
Yeah, I guess maybe the wording, because I understand what you're saying, but sometimes it stems from something way deeper. Like when you were talking about childhood issues, and it manifested into, you know, panic attacks or anxiety or depression or other health related issues later in life.
Yes.
And there's been a lot of studies that have been done that link childhood traumas to adult adversities. And it's I mean, I'm not going to get deep into the studies, but there's all kinds of stuff that have been conducted
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. And then, of course, when someone is already aware their trauma, if I get clients coming to me that, yes, I specifically want to release my trauma, which I remember, then that's most of the time is abuse, physical abuse, what they want to release, because that's what they always in their mind, they can't forget it. So that's very specific. But when they just having some mental physical issues and they don't know what's happened to them or they don't remember or it wasn't, then it's like we just have to dig it out, and release
yeah.
it. But yeah.
That's I like what you said about digging it out, because I think sometimes people are totally unaware of some things, especially if it happened when they were really young and it's very deep within that subconscious, and how it affects their behaviors and how it affects their relationships and how it affects, just so many things on
Yes,
so many different levels. Yeah.
how they operate, what kind of fears they are having, like
Yeah.
about their worthiness, how they feel about themselves. Like it's
Mhm.
really important because whatever they feel or whatever they thoughts having, that's actually affecting their actions and their whole
Yeah.
life. And then I always say that as soon as we start to release those emotions and we release those traumatic situations, then basically they rewrite their past, and then from on they can create a brand new future because they completely start having a different energetic situation.
Yeah. But it's also like when you think about like the stories or that people tell themselves, like just like I can't do whatever it is, or they have like it's just like it's looming in a story sense, that people get caught in those things. And when they start to like pause and reframe the story or reframe their own selves, about whatever it is, maybe it's around scarcity with money or fears or things like that. And it's like when you begin to think about like these things were so embedded in us as children that we developed coping mechanisms that have affected us our whole lives, and sometimes they stifle us and they hold us back.
Yeah, so this is what called like the subconscious reprogramming.
Yep.
When
Yep.
people
Yep.
start
Yep.
to like, okay, they need to create of positive affirmations and they need to
Yes.
be very mindful about their thoughts. And that's why I also have in the program coaching calls as well, besides the healing calls, because we work on subconscious reprogramming and then we also work on the trauma release because both needs to be done basically
Yeah.
to achieve. Because it's so funny because sometimes we do the release work and the person says me, I wake up in the morning and then I just wait and I am scared it's gonna happen again. I know it shouldn't. I know it shouldn't because we worked, we released it, but I have that little voice in my head that what if it's happening again? Or what if and that's why I'm
Mhm.
telling them, okay, now is the reprogramming phase, like when you need to say to yourself every morning, I am safe, I am healthy, I am strong, the working on their mindset, because basically that's the only problem but left, that they are like, am I really healthy now? I am really released what I released and I'm not gonna come back, so that's when, yeah, it's really, and it's the most of the, that's why it says like our worst enemy is ourselves. We are our worst enemy
Yes.
because
Mhm.
our thoughts, what we thinking of, sometimes we make up stories which has no foundation, nothing at all, because might we make up things like, oh, what if this gonna happen? What if that? Or what if that person think this about me, without even any communication or any backing it up, that story. And that's the worst thing what happening, that exactly.
Well, and I just think that there's so many more people that are becoming aware, um, after we went through pandemic, and more people are becoming aware of their their traumas and their trauma triggers or whatever they. But I think that there's a lot more awareness around trauma right now than there ever has been, and how it impacts us on so many different levels. And there's so many different arenas that people can work with, like the talk therapy, there's EMDR, there's cranial sacral, there's what you're doing, there's what I'm doing, and it's really allowing people to have the tools to begin to pick and choose what's right for them.
Yes,
So yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, and I think it's really, um, it's going so much more deeper. And then I know that I read something, I think you were on another podcast and there was the talk of intergenerational trauma and the stuff that comes forward with us. And I don't do a lot of intergenerational trauma in the course that I teach, but I'm fascinated with it because when you think about the lineage and how everything comes through at the cellular level, yeah, it's it's just like things that we bring forth that it might not even be our own traumas that are coming from our grandmothers or I don't know. I'm just using that as an example, but it's like, it's just sometimes it's just kind of mind blowing because when you think, I like to use the term, everything is connected. We're all connected in so many different levels. And you start talking to people and you're like, oh my gosh. I mean, even like through like, I don't know. I mean, even though I've seen you on social media, but it's like you listen to people and you begin to connect with them on a different level. Excuse me. So, but yeah.
Yeah, this ancestral lineage is very interesting because it's like some trauma can happen to your grandparent, and then actually because of the trauma, they create a certain pattern, a new behavior. And because of that new behavioral pattern, that behavior is start to get into their child. Then because of that, they start to use that behavior, even though they are not the ones who went through the trauma, because what is like in the early ages, you actually copy your parents' behavior. Like that's how the habits are, created. And then that behavior was started by your grandparent because of that situation, what they went through. And then it was kind of inherited to you, that behavior. And that can cause issues in relationships. So when we were doing like family constellation therapies, that was also a situation that we had to heal, like we had to heal soul level, the grandparents, to actually get the resolution in our relationship. So it's that's how deep and multi-layered actually everything.
And I think that that's so important for people to have, like they're opening their eyes to it, but it's so much deeper. It's and that embeds in our body, the behaviors and other things that come along with it. It's just fascinating to me. So yeah. Do you have upcoming courses like now? Are you going to be launching new ones soon? Or
yes, in February, actually. In February, I'm starting again the Elevate program. And it's used to be an 8 weeks program, but my clients, every time at the end of the 8 weeks, they were like, oh, it's already over. It seemed for them so short, 2 months. And then no, I decided to do this 8 weeks program, actually 12 months. So in February, I'm going to launch it for a 12 months program. And with bi-weekly calls, with healings. And then, as I said, it's also added the meditation library, where I'm always updating my library and adding new meditations, because I really believe that the daily practice of those powerful meditations, which are most of them are transcendental meditations, is actually helping with hormonal production, is helping you to keep you younger, it helps you with your mood and with your sleep. I also had clients who came to me with insomnia, and only just listening to these meditations helped them with their sleeping. So it's very important to use those meditations daily as they go through the program with me, besides doing the deep healings in the program.
Somebody has to be very, very committed to do a long program with you like that. You said 12 months?
Yeah, it seems long, but as they start and going through it, it's eventually not. So it's like you would say 1 year is so long, and I used to believe that too. But now, as I'm going through this more, and then I'm experiencing my clients' journey with me, and what they actually want to experience with me. I see they are with me for a year, but in different programs, because I used to like this program, that program. So after one, they join the other one or the other one. So now it's like, okay, then it's much comfortable, just have one big program, and then they can actually more interconnect with each other. They love to be in a tribe as well, to experience similar things, and they can, see how other people are going through this as well.
Yeah. So And you said that launches at the end of February or in February?
It's beginning, it's 8th of February, yeah.
Okay. Sounds that's and I will post at the end of our conversation in show notes where people can find you.
Thank you so
So
much.
through your website. Yeah, no. And I actually am getting ready to relaunch trauma-informed movement from a nervous system and trauma-informed approach. So people who are, have businesses and like, especially like fitness. And when I say fitness, I'm talking like personal trainers, Pilates teachers. I've got health and wellness coaches that have done trauma-informed movement with me as well. So if they're interested, I'll be launching mid-February is what I will be doing. So, but yeah, Edith, thank you so much for our conversation today. This has been wonderful. Is there anything else that you'd like to share before we close?
Oh, we talked about my book.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Yes, of course. I'm so sorry. Yes. And your book is called On the Healer's Journey.
On the
I'm
Healer's
so sorry.
Journey.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's On the Healer's Journey. It's a coaching book for seekers. And even I have lovely, beautiful mandalas in it to color. So if you want to read a chapter, after every chapter, you can color a mandala. So actually that allows you to calm down and, digest what you just read. And so I just love it.
And that book came out when again?
Actually, it's in 2022, so it's not that recent. It's 2022 when it was published by the Balboa Press. It's from the Hay House, so they are actually specialized on spiritual books. And so it's more like a spiritual kind of explanation, and then about mostly for people who's going through the awakening journey, and they want to find some stability, and they want to find some balance in their life, like how to actually tackle this situation when they feel so lonely or so alone in even in a family, or how to actually go through this process in a much smoother way, this awakening process, as even as a healer,
I'm so sorry. I'm glad you corrected me. So the book sounds amazing. It really truly does.
It's available everywhere. So my publisher did a great job. So if someone just Google it, or it's every platform.
Okay. All right. And I think that, do you find that with the mandalas in the book that like just even sitting, and because it allows people to decompress and slow down, which in our society right now, everybody's always going very fast and learning to sit down and tap into their bodies. It's just, I think it's huge. It's huge right now.
It's also, it's very fun. It's very interesting that when you do the mandalas, you're actually focusing. So you are more in your conscious mind in that way, that you focus on that, okay, I don't want to go out of the line, So you're focusing on that. But because of that, you don't allow your monkey mind to chatter that much, because you're focusing. But on the other hand, because you're doing something enjoyable, and then because you were reading a spiritual book, you are more open to channel something what needs to go through, maybe when you are coloring, you suddenly has a good idea, to do something, and then I really highly encourage people, if you do have a good idea while you're coloring, you take action on that. Don't hesitate or don't delay, because we need to be a yes man to achieve what we want. So
yes. And I think it also probably it opens our intuition, our clarity. There's so many things that it opens when we begin to just be still and listen inwardly. So yeah. Wow. I'm so glad you brought that up. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast with me today. And I look forward to continuing to see you on Instagram. And when we log off, stay on for just a minute, okay? So, all right. Thank you. Thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you, Tammy.